Welcome to the Mike Oldfield Discography podcast. This episode is about 5 Miles Out. It's an important album for the podcast because, to my mind, this is the album that started it. Many years ago, we were in a bar in Prenzlauer Berg somewhere with my brother, and I remember that we, for whatever reason, stumbled upon this album and talked for a very long time, and pretty intensely because, I have, at least at that time, I was very critical of the album. And not that I don't like it, that's not it, but I was critical of the Taurus 2 piece. And after we split, my brothers told me that he couldn't remember anyone talking about an album for so long, and he was absolutely fascinated by it. Mm-hmm. And I think since then the idea stuck with me that we should probably expand and extend this into for all the albums. Since then I've listened to it many times again. I think really, as much as I love the first 4, this phase starting from 5 Miles Out, maybe even Platinum, QE2, 5 Miles Out, and Crises, I would say that these are my most listened to albums by Mike Oldfield. I love going back to them. There's so much that just plain fun, as much as deep and fantastically composed as they are, just fun. And so in a way I feel both over-prepared and under-prepared because there's so much to say, and then on the other hand I know them so well that there's almost nothing to say. It's a fruitful period for him, and I just love going back to it. So 5 Miles Out, I think you can approach this from different angles. I wanted maybe to open up with 2 thought experiments, and then maybe give it pass the baton on to you.
Okay.
It does seem to establish a model for the 80s, in the sense that we now see songs appearing alongside the instrumentals. We see one side, the model of one long piece on one side and shorter pieces on the other side. I do think that 5 Miles Out is different from Crises and Islands and ultimately Heavens Are Open. But it does seem to establish this model, and it has been described as Mike opening up to a more pop direction and trying to stay relevant in the 80s. I mean, for many bands in that from that scene, the 80s were hard. Yes, for example, many of these bands did go down a similar route. But here are 2 thoughts. Imagine if QE2 had been Mike's debut album. And then he would have followed up with 5 Miles Out and Crises, and then would have released Tubular Bells. How would that have changed public perception of his development as an artist? In my mind, probably would have said, okay, QE2 is a very nice, promising start. Then we have him expand into all these different directions, expand the music into long-form pieces, into electronic music, and then Tubular Bells would have been hailed as a triumph, as establishing himself as a composer. Mm-hmm. Just my guess. And the other one is, imagine if, so this model has often been described as a compromise. So you have one side to satisfy the old fans and the other side to satisfy the record company. And Mike himself has called it a compromise on several occasions. But imagine if he had released an album with one side, the Crises title track, on the other, on the B side, the Taurus 2 piece. And he had saved the biggest and complementary pop tracks for one album. Then I think he would have had one album which would have been hailed as a return to his old form, and the other one would have sold probably even more than Crisis, and would have been one of the big pop albums of the 80s. So I think, as much as it was a compromise, the form he chose, one long form piece on one side and really pop tracks on the other, is completely unique, and actually was not as commercial as many people say this. It could have just as well alienated both, like everyone.
Yeah.
So I think,
which it did for a few people.
Yeah.
I mean, this is what I have kind of started to see some reaction videos pop up on YouTube about Mike Oldfield albums, and like that seems to be like what the common man a response of people who think they know something about music is that they try to kind of like hate on the songs, but but anyway, it's an important album in many ways. I think it's the very first Mike Oldfield I heard, which was Taurus 2. My uncle played it for me on his from his turntable in '82, obviously, and then I went to the show in Essen that same year, and I became a big fan, and I became a musician there. I keep saying that I became a musician that night that I saw that show. Yeah, I mean, like where do we start with this really outstanding album? So maybe like one of my most recent experiences, I was giving a workshop a couple of weeks ago in the US, and the host, they had a really amazing sound system. So and we were listening to music in the evenings, and I put on Taurus 2. Actually, we had learned to play Mount Heidi. And so I played that, and then we also listened to Taurus 2. And one of the guys who was there, he was sitting there, and you could tell that he was kind of shocked, like, what is this? And he was laughing out loud at some like things that happened in the music, and like you could see that the laughing was sort of the kind where that the laughing is because it's moving you so much.
Yeah, because it's so good.
It's kind of like so good, but also like grabbing you by whatever, right? So and it was an amazing experience to listen again with other people to this music, and it's actually a pretty long piece, right?
Yes,
It's about 25 minutes. It's one of his longest.
That is
pieces.
the irony, absolutely.
Yeah. And so the inside of the cover has the track sheet for Taurus 2. For those who remember seeing that, or who have a re-release or a physical copy that has that. Also, I think you can find it there's a high-quality scan somewhere on the internet for those.
As a part of Discogs, I suppose it's in there.
Yeah, I don't know, but I know that I have a high-quality scan of this somewhere. And it's just really interesting. So first of all, like in the canon of things, right? Like we have Taurus 2, and I said last time when we were talking about QE2 that QE2, 5 Miles Out, and Crisis have instrumentation in common, and I funnily enough, pointed out the banjo, right?
Yeah.
And so the banjo makes an appearance here in Taurus 2, even though like in the track sheet, I don't see it. So this is kind of like interesting. Like I'm hearing the banjo, but is it really there? I don't know. So Mike is credited as guitars, bass, keyboards, vocals on this record.
Yeah.
And it's the basically the core live band that recorded this album. So it's Maggie Riley vocals, Morris Pert percussion and keyboards. Interesting, right? Percussion. Sorry. I mean Morris Pert percussion keyboards. That he was actually playing keyboards is something that was surprising. Tim Cross, obviously keyboards. Rick Fenn guitars, and then a couple of guests like Mike Fry, Paddy Maloney, pipes, and Carl Palmer and Graham Broad on drums for a couple of tracks. So
David Henschel is not on there, right?
No.
Not at all, because I thought the session with Palmer, I believe Henschel was part of that, but I'm not like 100% certain. There was another track recorded which went onto Palmer's.
It says that, and this is kind of like maybe pointing to something that somebody else may have been involved, because it says Mount Heidi produced by Mike Oldfield and engineered by Richard Mainwaring. I don't know how to pronounce that name, but maybe because the track 5 Miles Out was also co-produced with Tom Newman, and like everything else on the record is produced by Mike.
Yeah.
But we have like the appearance of a couple of tunes or sections that are band compositions or like have been contributed by the other musicians. which is unique to this, really unique to this record.
Yeah.
So but not much about that is really obviously like Family Man. We have the credits to the whole band, I think, as writers. Then there's the very last section of Ora Bidu.
As far as I know, the middle section is all the sort of the fugue is also.
As Tim Cross, right?
And funnily enough, actually, that one is also part of Taurus 2. So Taurus 2
exactly.
is also
Yes.
co-credits.
Yes. The fugue. Like, who would have expected something like that? You know, I mean, it's not really quite a fugue.
No,
but it's a really nice, a really nice section, I have to say. Yes, and you know, like, okay, coming back to what you said. Okay, so it's those two sides, but here on this record, those two sides are actually, like, in a way, more connected.
Yes.
Than the two sides on other albums.
Absolutely.
Of this, in a way.
Yeah.
So, like, the main Taurus 2 theme is the 5 Miles Out theme, right? So he's like using these bookends, you know, Taurus 2 and 5 Miles Out for the rest of the record, and then the rest of the record isn't, you would say, isn't that much, really, just with 3 songs. But then in the middle you have Ora Bidu, which is kind of like a big thing, also. Mount Tidy is one of his most rhythmically complex pieces.
Yeah.
And Family Man as like a very simple, but not simple in a bad way, really cool pop song that got covered by Hall & Oates. And like, it's funny, like, if you go, because Daryl Hall has a show called Daryl's House on YouTube. Actually, I played at Daryl's house many times in that club. Yeah. So, and there are like Sammy Hagar performing Family Man with Daryl Hall, and Cheap Trick playing a Cheap Trick playing a version of Family Man. It's fucking great. And also Chromeo, like
they're big Hall & Oates fans,
yeah, and that Chromeo version is just so cool. I mean, it makes me laugh. Like,
that's why I just interviewed them. I should have asked them about Mike Oldfield.
You should have.
Yeah.
Really. So this album is like kind of all over the place. Like, sonically, it really sits between the 70s and the 80s.
Yeah.
It has a lot of Lindrum. And it has a lot of Fairlight, right? So it's the first record that features the Fairlight, and it actually features all those, like, really kind of like, which people would call cheesy or corny sounds, but the combination of it's like the wackiest kind of combination of sounds on this record.
You know, there's lots of this talk about Amarok being Omadon 2. I actually see 5 Miles Out as Amarok 0, sort of, because it has this this wildness and this boundlessness about it. It's so rich. Yes. It takes everything in.
It's interesting. Yes, absolutely. And so the at some point, I was kind of like in my head going through like all the sound colors and instruments that make an appearance here. So again, we have the vocoder as a rhythmic instrument.
Yeah.
We have double drumming. So Morris Pert playing 2 drum kits, obviously overdubbed, and where one is panned to the right, other one is panned to the left. And you have the Lindrum kind of like sitting in the middle somehow. So you have like a really big percussion and drums rhythm section. There are the Fairlight pan pipes and portamento, vibraphone samples, or whatever it is. The sounds that make an appearance, like that have a really big role on, like, for example, on Foreign Affair, Crisis is based on that same sound that makes its first appearance here in Taurus 2. Then there are like very mid-rangey kind of rhythm guitars that are absolutely unique to this record. And this was the time when he was starting to use or even promote the Mesa Boogie amps. So I think that maybe that nasal quality has something to do with that. Like the other way he was using the microphones to pick it up. But it really, really sounds fucking great, this record. And it's such an incredible mix with the 70s analog synthesizers. Then the vocal, where Maggie Riley kind of like sings a couple of tunes in Taurus 2, but there's also like just vocalizing melodies, right?
Yeah.
And
which is much closer to what she was also doing in concert. So this one feels like Crises feels very like a studio album, and I think translates just a little bit, like the big piece translates just a little bit less well to the stage. But I think this one is just it captures the energy of their live performance and then puts it to record.
Yes, and like having Tim Cross involved is kind of amazing, because Tim is kind of like acting like he's playing the trombones in the middle of like he's playing these arrangements on keyboard that sound like something else. So this is kind of like a very rare thing to happen on Mike Oldfield records, where some like like a musician contributes that kind of palette that you would expect from somebody who is like experienced recreating sounds in the studio. And as far as I know, Tim Cross was composing for a bit of film and for TV most of the time. So he was kind of like the go-to guy then to say, okay, can you do something that, and we don't have to invite a brass section, but he was doing that on keyboards. And so like it's all over the place. And then there is Rick Fan playing guitar. And I think Rick Fan is like more present than people think on this. Like also a couple of I'm pretty sure a couple of the solos, the shorter solos, are actually Rick Fan and on Mike. Especially like at the in the first section, there are like this break with these very experimental guitar lines. I'm sure that's Rick Fan, for example, right? And I'm looking at the track sheet here for those who haven't seen it. It's and I'm saying I was stopping there with the instrumentation orchestration, but there's more. There's Paddy Maloney on William pipes, in combination with some interesting like drones, like where you could say like it was the drone from the backpack that was probably sampled or something. I don't know how he did it. With the vocoder, these combinations of sounds are just so incredible.
This would have been really interesting to know more about the production process. There's so little out there, but it would have been absolutely fascinating how he put it together.
I mean, like one of the maybe problems with Taurus 2 is that at some of the edits seem a little heavy-handed, like from today's perspective. I'm saying from today's perspective because like he had to kind of like sort of like paste together sections.
Yes.
But I think that's just because of it's such a complex thing, and he had those 24 tracks available, and it was just necessary to kind of splice things together. But anyway, I don't mind that at all.
You could call it heavy-handed. I mean,
for me, it's not. I'm just saying that some people say it. Right?
I don't find it heavy-handed. I don't find all of the transitions to be that great. I have my issues still with Taurus 2, but we can talk about that maybe in a second. It's more. I think it's ultimately these things are also my own problems as a listener. No, I think in terms of engineering, I think it. As I said, I think it captures the live spirit. I've never thought it was heavy-handed. I thought it was joyous. It's not trying. Like Crises is really smooth. It has this feeling of taking you from beginning to end in one seamless movement, and this one has more of these more jumpy. But that radiates a lot of positive vibes. I just think it.
Totally, and I just found the banjo
Aha.
in the track sheet.
Oh yes.
Yeah, totally joyous. Like what he was saying around the time was like that music form is a celebration of life, and that's really what this record is kind of about. It's like that unbounded creativity, and also like he opened up quite a bit to referencing things that were going on at the time, like the guitar riffs on this. They are sort of like, and I think I mentioned that before, a little bit like Owner of a Lonely Heart kind of style.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that, because seriously, I mean, with the instrumentation you have there on the album, and the editing involved, you know, there would have been an opening for a Trevor Horn collaboration as early as in the early 1980s.
Yes, and you know, remember that it was like in a way late days for prog rock already, but this is Mike's first, if you want to say so, first prog rock outing.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like already when the genre was already dying.
Yeah, he's sort of anticipating what the other prog bands were doing. They were sort of keeping elements intact, but opening up to something different. Even though still then, I mean, it does not have the sort of the headiness, and it does not have this antsiness that a lot of the British prog has. I feel it has the structure and it has elements of it, but still entirely its own thing. I don't think this is comparable to, I don't know, Close to the Edge or something. I think it's really something else.
It's really something else. And just the fact that again, Mike here allows for his folk music roots to really come through. It's just also, I mean, I keep saying this, like sometimes it's interesting to see what kind of musical just in terms of like which scales or which modes, you know, musical modes he was using. And this record has Lydian in it, and especially, I mean, Taurus 2, you know, specifically. And like just like the appearance of Lydian wouldn't be so special, right, if it was like in a diatonic context. But what he does, he takes the Lydian sound and then just moves it around modally. So, you know, you would have C Lydian and then you would have F Lydian, and that gives like a really special sound. And like Lydian is like the brightest mode, they say, right? Meaning like it has a very open, bright sound, and really kind of it fits into what you were saying, that this is such a happy, in a way, you know, I would say celebration.
Yeah, I mean, maybe now is a good time to go back to our first discussion many years ago. I think my problem with the piece is that it starts out in a very particular mood, and it starts off energetic, maybe not dark, but it has sort of a rawness to it, and then it increasingly loosens this mood, and then there's of course the section into the disco part. So I have a huge problem with that. I find it takes you completely out of what was before. It takes me, it takes me out of it, and then it sort of at the end, it tries to go back and may come full circle, but it doesn't really. So that is how I see it, how I experience it.
Yeah.
But so now I've thought about this, and I mean, music for me is always a way to understand myself. I've asked myself, why is it that I don't like this? And if I look back, there's actually moments like this several times in Mike's work, which are like this, but go in the other direction. For example, we have the Tempest movement in Hergest Ridge. There's this really, I call it the doom metal section in Tubular Bells Part 1 at the beginning, where the this deep droning guitar comes in. So I like those. But I have my issue with this. So I think my problem is that if it's
we have a problem with the dark side to the happy side.
Exactly.
Or?
I have so that is my issue as a listener.
But you know, like, and I think again, it's sort of like, and like maybe I'm going too far here, but I think it's sort of very, very, very clever
Yes,
done.
probably.
And the this little pop song, which actually like a French singer covered. I don't know if you've ever heard that version.
Which one?
The disco song.
No, seriously?
Yes,
Oh,
there's a like a 3 minute, and it's actually the same music, and she just sings like some French lyrics on top of it,
huh.
with the melody.
Wow, I never knew.
Yeah. Anyway, like things are just kind of like so self-referential and
Yes.
even in the. I know what you mean though. Like I mean, maybe that would be like the most kind of how would you say, cheesy, corny aspect, but it's not. Like again, because the melodies, and he does this like it's so amazing, where there is like there's a little bridge in it with the bridge melody and the verse melody. They are they are in polyphony with each other, and so like I listened to this and then I realized, come on, like he kind of sells this to us as something that is, you know, like that. But then there is like this little twist to it, which is something that like somebody would have done who were in writing a symphony, right? Like, and it's really I just love that so much. This kind of
I have this like this psychological explanation in the
Yeah.
sense that if you take Helge Stritch, you have life is sort of a placid stream, and then it gets disrupted by disaster. So that is a view of the world, and in this case, you have far more upbeat music, which is then disrupted even more by something positive. I think that is not a coincidence that he's more happy as a person and as a musician in this moment. That the non sequitur, the sudden arrival of this section comes and takes the piece even more into this light, into the light. He actually, the more I listen to it, the more I can see the whole piece as this sort of taking everything in, even you know.
I think also it's not really something that is meant to make sense.
No, I agree.
Or meant to. It's not a designed journey, right? It's not like designed to be a journey. I think it just happens to be what it is, and like we never know. Like he's maybe had like these completely different things in mind, and then just put them together, right? Without thinking much. But then, as you say, like you find that the reprise of the first theme is kind of lackluster, and I think it's not. Actually, it's one of the most deliberate moments on
I mean, that's the very end.
Yeah, because like the way that the tempo suddenly slows down is just so heavy, and like again, like this is something that you get like more aware of when you're listening to the live versions, how they play this. That it's really like there's nothing left to chance here. So I think that, like for example, like this little pop song, if you pay attention, like it's so incredibly complex. Like the Lindrum, like this little program drum machine has like 8 different rhythmic layers. Then like with whatever, like shaker overdubs and tambourines, and then when the double drumming kind of sets in on top of that, and everything is just so joyfully. And I read here that it's Boran actually that comes in there as well. It's yeah, I don't know. I mean, I really like it, and for me, it's the one record that I can listen to after, what is it, 40 years now?
Yeah.
Where I literally still find new things to hear.
Yeah, that makes sense.
They are kind of like buried like on the like in the mix, or just like very hard panned and soft in the left or right channel and stuff like that. It's really it keeps on giving for me. And this is the one, like Taurus 2 is the piece that I can recall like in my head from beginning to end, completely with all the details.
Yeah.
So that's why my audiation skills kind of like
Yeah.
are pretty good with this album.
Do you know if Mike programmed the Lindrums, or who did?
I do not know, but I would say yes.
Yeah.
It sounds to me like parts that somebody would program who is not a percussionist. But I don't know. It could be Morris Pert. Could be.
I'm asking because when we discussed QE2, we talked maybe too much, but I expanded a bit on the drum machine on that album, and he didn't actually get all that much out of it. It's on there. It adds a metronome, and it adds a color.
Yeah.
But he doesn't really do that much with it, as for example Phil Collins does. But I feel the Lindrum. What is the difference between the Lindrum and the early machines? Is that the Lindrum is entirely programmable. So
it is, yeah.
So it's really it can really
and it's
group.
Digital.
And it's digital, yes.
Yeah.
And it sounds incredible, of course. But I think the difference is really that it can now program it. So that would mean to me that that Mike was sort of waiting for something where he could actually really get into it and start creating beats from scratch, whereas the Roland really doesn't offer that yet.
Yeah, and unfortunately I don't know that much about it, but I think that the patterns that I'm hearing, they have 32 steps rather than 16. So it's like 2 bars of 16 notes. No, I think it's probably that's what set the machine apart from what came before. I don't know. I really don't know. This is something we would have to.
Yeah, well, I can say that what sets it apart really is that it's entirely programmed from scratch. You can really make beats from scratch. It sounds a lot better, and it sounds a lot more like a real drum set, or at least it has the power of a real drum set.
Yeah.
It was really expensive, so he must have seen something. It cost $5,000, I believe,
Well,
at the time.
he had the Fairlight.
He had the Fairlight as well, so yes.
So. Yeah, there's yeah, I mean, it's just the playfulness of it all. It's just wonderful. There's one thing in the track sheet for Taurus 2. I still don't know what it is, or I forgot. Maybe I knew at some point. Well, actually 2 things. One he calls well, where is it? Like Swan. Yes, Swan, it says. And it says Swan a couple times, and then it also says Swanee. And I don't know what that is.
I wish I had seen this before when I was making my own diagram or
Yeah, I mean, like for me, this was present from the very first time I saw the album, right? Which was in '82. And yeah, the other sound here is called Loster, or Lost, LOS, as an abbreviation here. I don't know what that is. Everything else seems to be like obvious, like it's either like a musician's name, or like descriptive of the instrument.
But it's interesting, isn't it, how this probably this wasn't in his mind. He probably just made it after he arrived at a sort of an idea. But I think it's interesting how this representation, this graphic representation, when you're young, shapes your view of the music. I had something similar with Klaus Schulze's album Time Wind. If you know the LP, it also has a diagram of his representation of the piece. And it has a few bars of notes, but mostly it's oscillator curves and volume shifts and so forth, which is completely different than this is. But that also shaped my idea.
But don't forget that this is a technical thing too.
Yeah.
Because like in order to keep track of what's happening where, you kind of like, and for the mix, you have to know where things are, because like, so you like on like, I don't know, on track 14, like you have 20 different things happening. Right? So it's also like, I'm just saying, it's more than just a graphical representation. It's also like the reality of what got recorded onto the tape.
Yeah. I think one, there was a few where I wasn't quite sure. So one thing I noticed was what I find interesting, there's a passage from minute 3 to minute 5. I don't think it says the minutes there, but so it's in my view, it's the third section.
Yeah.
There's a folkish theme, and it combines with the 5 Miles Out theme. And then I found it interesting that I think, well, if I counted right, there's 12 transpositions as well. So at the end of that section, he takes this theme and he goes through 12 transpositions, which I thought was nice. And there was one section which I really wasn't sure. Do you think that this from about 5 minutes to minute 8 with the bagpipes, do you think that's an Omadon reference?
No.
No?
No.
Because it really strongly reminded me of it, but
It's the sound.
And
it's the sound. But it's like more, and this is funny because we have Morris Burt on it, and here it says Morris Man.
Yeah, I saw that.
But it's the Morris dancing. I think that's what it's referring to. Like it's a Morris dance kind of section. It's an Irish thing. And yeah, that melody is just so incredible. I find like it's like a melody that's again like using 3 or 4 notes, but by the harmonization of like how Mike is doing that, and then also like some transposition that happens, unexpected transposition is really I just absolutely love it. And for me, it kind of like makes total sense in this piece. I think it's probably because we have some. Like, first of all, this was all recorded in his studio, which I think is now called Tile House Studio, and his son runs it. So it's a tiled room for the percussion, and like it's a very, very unique sound on the drums. And we have the Linn drum running through it all. So the Linn drum is also in this Morris dancing section, and the recording technology and the room he used back then had such a unique sound. So I think everything is kind of like pulled together by that. And you know, like the Morris Man section, you have the percussion sounds, you have like he's left in sort of like the sound of the musicians playing. Like you can hear some
shouting.
Yeah. Like, so it was real. They had fun in the studio, probably also like standing around the microphone with 3-4 people and playing percussion together and stuff like that. It's but it has the vocoder again, like in this
very
really cool sounding vocoder and really super nice crunchy rhythm guitars, which make it kind of rocky. And in a way, for me, this section is maybe one that has sort of, and it's funny that I say that, but it has like a little bit of the Crisis vibe for me. Funnily enough, like the way that he was using rhythm guitars then, which kind of like it's like I think there's a big difference between 5 Miles Out and Crisis. So, but anyway, like so in some small elements, I can see that step that he may be taking, and funny enough, in this folk section, right?
Yeah, that is interesting. I thought a bit of the Moldau. Where you also have these sections where, because he also imagines a group of dancing, I think peasants or whatever, at the side of the river. And because this has sort of almost a field recording aspect to it, like he was taping, like he was going into a pub in Ireland and actually taping it on location. I like that room. You suddenly hear the room open up and then these voices. I like that passage a lot.
Yes.
And I thought of Omadon because the passage after that, I think, is the Tubular Bells on recorder orchestra section, where you have the Tubular Bells theme played by, maybe it's not recorded. It sounds like an orchestra of recorders. Maybe it's an organ. I'm not quite sure.
It's probably the. I don't know which section you exactly mean, but there's a lot of pan flute from the.
Oh, that maybe is the pan flute.
Yeah, pan flute from the Fairlight.
Oh, that's how.
And that sounds like an orchestra.
Oh, that's what you meant before. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. They're playing Tubular Bells. That is I like that section. Is really cool.
Yeah, that is the reprise of the Taurus theme as it opens Taurus 1. So at the beginning we have like the deep sound, the song, and then at the end of that we have that reprise of the Tubular Bells theme with those flute sounds, And what is so cool about that is that section then gets like the tempo gets halved. So at first, it's original tempo, and then suddenly like drops down to half speed, which to me is like one of these amazing effects, like on this record, like something that is wow, like suddenly like everything slows down to half speed, incredible, and played at half speed, not so it's yeah, and like I forgot to mention that the maybe the cheesiest, but also kind of like funniest and coolest sound on this is the Fairlight sampled vocals, which you can hear like in the what you call the fugue section, right? So in the fugue section you can hear like sampled pipe organ, sampled voices, the pan flutes, sampled pan flutes, and also the vibraphone glockenspiel samples and whatever it is.
That's interesting. I wasn't so familiar with these sounds. I always thought that Crises was a masterclass in the Fairlight, but it's used in a much more conventional way.
I'm not so sure. I think that really what makes the Crisis record is more of the Oberheim synthesizer.
The Oberheim gives I think that the Fairlight gives the sort of the atmosphere, and the Oberheim gives the bass, the overarching sound.
The remix, well, not the remix, like the 5.1 mix of Crisis brings the Fairlight elements to the fore, and it doesn't work that much.
I would like to.
I think it's,
no, I agree. Probably not. I heard bad things, but I would love to hear it if I can.
Yeah, we could listen to it at some point.
Yeah.
But it's sort of like, because those sounds really, like if if you didn't treat them, if you didn't kind of like massage them into something, they sounded bad, right? So fortunately, and this is like what I like, the stereo remixes we have of 5 Miles Out and Crisis, they managed to kind of like massage those early digital sampler sounds in a way that they're acceptable, and they become part of the organic whole, let's say. I mean, like, so I mean, there are a couple other interesting things I have to say about the record,
please.
Which I would just quickly do.
Can I just take one question? You said that your uncle played you Taurus 2 at the time. Did he not play the B-side? Was it really that?
No, he played me both, but I remember the very first thing I heard was Taurus 2.
Okay.
At least that's how I remember it.
I just wanted to mention, because you're talking about electronic music before you go.
Yeah.
This is an audio medium, so listeners can't hear it. But this Galaxy Volume 2, that's a sampler from a series, a 3-part series on what was formerly Klaus Schulze's label, IC Digit, which was then already run by someone else. This is one of the most influential series of compilations I ever had, and it's space music. Partly by musicians from the label, partly from people from outside. I think they're all three incredible. And I just love the fact that this was my first point of contact with this album. Is Mount Tidy is on here.
Yes.
In between all of this space and cosmic ambient and krautrock. And it fits in perfectly.
Incredible. I had no idea that this existed.
I mean, all 3 parts are so good. This may be, it has Klaus Schulze on it, actually.
Yes, Klaus Schulze and Software and Asha and.
But really, to me,
Brian Eno even.
Yeah, Brian Eno, and it's the vocal. This album sounds both retro and futuristic. That's what makes it so crazy to me, because it has the rock, but it also has the vocoder. I don't think there's an album which uses the vocoder in this way.
Yeah.
And then the Lynn drum and everything.
Yeah.
It's really. I don't know. Is it steampunk? Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, kind of steampunk. Exactly.
Sorry. Okay, please go on. But
funny. I didn't think about that. Yeah. Okay. So, Family Man. Okay. Yeah. I was always wondering. So, because as you know, as a musician, sometimes I played along, to this music. Funnily enough, I never really tried to learn it properly, because I'm such kind of like, I just want to keep some mystery to what he's doing. But anyway, with Family Man, it occurred to me that it's an F minor. So, and I was always wondering, like, that's kind of a strange key to pick for a guitar-based song.
Okay.
Right? And so I was always thinking, oh, they must have pitched it up. They must have just played it back faster, because also Maggie Riley's voice sounds a little more Mickey Mousey than usual, right? But it's just kind of like not noticeable, really. And then when Mike put out the 5.1 version, right? And I listened to it, and in fact, yes, it is an E. It's a half step lower. Like, he did not pitch it up for the re-release, for the 5.1 mix. So I said, okay, that makes sense. I had the right sense for it. It was actually played in E.
So why do you think they pitched it up?
Because that was a common practice at the time. That music was just kind of, if you were thinking it was fast enough, you would just pitch it up.
So you think it was
because it was analog. It was an analog recording, so you could do that, and you would obviously change the like the sound, right? It wasn't like totally independent.
No.
But like within a half step, it was possible to kind of like speed something up or slow something down.
How much are we talking about in terms of speed? Is this
that's a good question. I don't know this. I could calculate it.
The Hall & Oates is also in F minor, isn't it? I mean, they
No,
just keep...
no. I think their version is in a different key.
Okay.
I don't know.
There's no huge difference.
I think it's in D or something. I don't know. I haven't heard it. I mean, I have never played along with it, but I'm pretty sure it's not in the same key. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, and like there's also this beautiful, like really high pitched guitar solo in Family Man, where I wasn't sure, like, is it Mike playing it? Is it Rick Fenn playing? I was even thinking that it could be somebody else who's not credited. I don't know why. I have that feeling.
I don't know. It's not Mike. It sounded totally typical. Is it someone channeling him then?
I don't know. It's just, I'm just saying this, that in some instances, I'm not entirely sure.
Yeah.
Because also, like, he was certainly picking players according to like his taste. Like, like throughout his career, like it's fascinating. Even going to 2006, when it was doing like the Night of the Proms, and I mean, I know it was just a coincidence that John Miles was part of that, and John Miles was singing Shadow of the Wall, or or playing guitar on Tubular Bells. But the way that John Miles made the guitar sound was like, like rock guitars on the 70s, and like the like, do you know Music by John Miles, that song?
Yeah.
Like that lead guitar sound that John has on that song is really very much like an Oldfield kind of thing. So I think that's why sometimes, especially like on the I can't remember now, the Tim Rennick was the other guitarist on the tour in '82.
Yeah.
Right? And so there are also a couple of live versions and there's like a studio appearance where they play 5 Volts Out and Family Man, I think, and Mistake. No, Mistake is what they play. Actually, Mistake, the song that is sort of from this time, that was recorded by the Mike Oldfield group, right? And actually, and this is like interesting, like the track sheet has as artist Mike Oldfield group.
Yeah.
Mike Oldfield.
Yeah.
It was released as a Mike Oldfield album, right? So they must have had the idea to make a group album, which explains a lot. That's also why, they have the credits. I don't know, does it actually credit the composition here on this? No, it does not. Let me see, I have some other set of liner notes here. Let's see what it says. All compositions by Mike Oldfield except Family Man and Ora Bidoo by Mike Oldfield, Tim Cross, Rick Fenn, Mike Fry, Maggie Riley, and Morris Peart.
Yeah. That's also what I have in the CD.
Yeah.
Later CD reissue.
Yeah.
Even though the credits are all over the place, you can't rely on the credits because, for example, on the credits of my CD, it says for Mount Tidy, it just says Oldfield, which is an Oldfield Palmer composition.
I don't think it is.
You don't think so?
Is it? No.
I thought it was credited.
It doesn't. Carl Palmer is playing drums on it. But to me, it has nothing to do with what Carl Palmer would have composed.
It doesn't sound like an Emerson, Lake and Palmer piece, but
It also like really, I don't know, like to me
hard to
that
say.
if it's I mean it's possible, it's always possible, but I don't think so.
I wonder how much of that was actually done in post. Because do you know the other piece they recorded, Ready Mix?
Yeah, that has that
It is so completely
that's
different.
just a jam. That's just a blues jam kind of thing. No, it has nothing to do with, and that's where you go. Maybe that was the track that Carl brought,
That could have,
and Mike brought this. So
No,
you never know. No, post production is not the right term here. I think with Mount Tidy, it's pretty much it's a post production thing, like because it's so complex. Like you had to have spent a lot of time piecing it together in the Fairlight or whatever you use for sequencer, because it's a strange cycle. Like I don't remember exactly, 87 beats or something. It's really intense, that piece, right? So it's really some pieces that as a composer you can't just improvise something like that. You can't just come up with something like that without actually at the time, like now in any sequencer you can make any number of notes, right? But back then you had like your 16 note grids and you had to kind of like make it work and splice things together in an analog way to make odd bars and stuff like that. So I don't know. So yeah, Family Man. So Family Man, like tuned up a half step. I love it. I love the bass part in it, like because it's just so minimal and a typical Oldfield. And I think it's Oldfield playing the bass, obviously. Yeah.
I think the drums are incredible.
Yeah, it's just like the most plain beat, but played in a Morris Peart way. So it's really groovy.
I love how it's sort of at the end they almost like a timpani,
Yeah, exactly, the timpani. Yeah, and the timpani that makes an appearance couple times in this record, 3 times actually, in Taurus 2, and Family Man, and in Aura Bidou. Yeah. So yeah, Aura Bidou is kind of interesting because I think like this was the time that his second son or his first son was born, Dougal. And so Aura Bidou must be like sort of like a lullaby, kind of the beginning at least, I think, lullaby, which probably kind of like relates to his son. I don't know. Aura Bidou sounds like a word that a child says, and then you pick up on it and you like it, and you know.
Well, we both know the jazz label Utzella. That was actually the name Utzella was based on something his
started, Nutella said. With Nutella. Yeah. That's what she said from Nutella. Yeah. I know that very well because I was there when he started the label.
Yeah, exactly.
So so Aura Bidou is again like this beautiful pastiche of things, again with a very interesting like the big section where it actually the Aura Bidou section in the middle has a really incredible groove, which is sort of again not in 4/4, but you don't really know what it is, and it's like 2 different cycles overlapping and stuff, and harmonically very simple. Just like Mount Tidy is harmonically incredibly simple, but then the rhythm is stretched. So like here you could ask, okay, maybe what is the influence? Like you said, maybe Carl Palmer on Mount Tidy, possible, I don't know. Or like Morris Peart, and Mike Fry contributing on Aura Bidou. Yeah,
even on this album, I think that piece sticks out. It's different from the other pieces, I think.
Yeah, but even though it's referencing, like you said, it has the fugue section.
Yeah.
That is.
Oh, sorry, I meant Mount Tidy.
You mean Mount Tidy? Mount Tidy is certainly the standout track, and also 5 Miles Out, and both have been, not fully produced in his studio, I think. So, but Mike's studio. So I think that makes sense. but even Family Man kind of falls out of the. In a way, like all of these 5 pieces are sort of like unique, with
Yeah.
unique sounds. That it's much less of an album sound than usual for him. Like it's more like put these different things together, right? But at the same time, you have themes referencing each other, but the sound is quite different. Like Graham Broad playing on 5 Months Out, very different drum sound than Morris Bird on the rest of the record. Completely different. Probably recorded somewhere else too. Anyway, so what was I going to say? Yeah, Orabidu has like, I haven't counted them, but is it 3, 4, 5 sections? 5, 6 sections, I guess, including that beautiful little song at the end. I don't know, Island's Eye or whatever, like one may call it, which apparently is a Rick Fenn and Maggie Riley thing. But nobody really has ever spoken up about like who wrote which part. I think it would be important to eventually kind of like find out, and for history's sake, to have some reference, to know. But who knows if that is ever going to happen.
I think they're open about it. For example, the fugue section that was also like revealed later on in the interview. So I think maybe we probably just need to talk to them. I'm not sure if Maggie Riley wants to talk about that, but
I mean, I'll find out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Orabidu to me is really that has more of this progressive feeling because it's released in sections. But what I love about it is that it has these sections, but it feels completely natural. I feel they belong together in a way that I cannot rationally explain, but I just love how they move from the beginning to the end.
Yeah, but I think in a way it's like a mini Taurus 2, though.
It is.
Right? So it's just the same format.
And it's probably my preferred version of.
Yes, yeah. I know what you mean. But as always, like we don't know, like were those leftover parts that would have been part of Taurus 2, or it's always interesting. Yeah, I mean overall this record is, I think it's like everybody needs to know this record. I really think so. It's such a joyful thing, and like 5 Months Out is like a mini rock opera with 12 different sections or something, and in 4 minutes 12 seconds, I think.
Sort of is take on
like that's yeah, take me love. It's just so beautiful, and like this idea to take a lead vocal with the vocoder, with actual lyrics, and
do you know the sound which closes out the album at the very end of 5 Miles Out, which sort of cuts it at the end? Do you know what that is? Is that something with the guitar? Or
I think it's probably the guitar, yes, with the whammy bar or something. Yeah.
I always wished for that piece to go on just a little bit longer, but I like the way that
it could also be a synthesizer or whatever, but it's really that it does this portamento thing, like it's being pitched down. It could also be like a tape stopping, right? That it just, the tape stopping effect, right? Yeah, I love that too.
Even though, I mean, I think
it's like the plane crashing. That's kind of like the sound.
If in a more positive twist, the story, of course, relates to a personal experience he had, and I think he describes shooting out of the thunderstorm into again quiet air as a champagne cork leaving the bottle. So maybe that is just they've now left the storm. Maybe the plane is not crashing, but it's now. The panic is over.
Yes.
What is your take, by the way, on the cover version of Family Man by Hall & Oates?
I never liked it back in the day, so that version sounds kind of like weak to me, and doesn't have the coolness and sort of like the minimal dryness of the original. Like the original is, I mean, like it's not a greatly produced tune at all.
No.
But the Hall & Oates version, I think it's kind of lacking the the vibe.
It's smooth.
I mean, the original version that they put out, but it was a big hit. So, what do I know?
All power to them.
Yes, yes,
I agree. I think it's a bit anemic.
Yeah.
It's smooth, but it has less character.
yes. But then, like going to the live versions, like, and even if you or Google like Family and Hall and Oates, Family Man Hall and Oates live, you'll find some cool versions, and they kind of like pay tribute to the original guitar parts. They play them, right? Because they're just so cool. You know, it is just incredibly cool. And also the choice of notes for the melody, right? Like the first note being that dissonant note, right? It's just so cool. It's but anyway, like my take on it is that these versions that were recorded maybe like in the past 10 years for Daryl's House, they really rock, and it's funny to see how like a band like Cheap Trick, you know, and their vocalist, I don't know the name, but like how he's interpreting that vocal is just so great. You have to see it. It's really wonderful, like goosebumpy. And thinking of it, like if I were like Mike or the band back then and hearing that, I would feel so incredibly moved by it to see that something that was really, as you say, part of such a record, like such a collection of like just joyful celebration and maybe also technical struggle to put something like this together. And then it kind of like gets this treatment as being almost like an American cultural precious thing somehow, right? It's funny.
With this album, I did not have the urge to buy the vinyl because I think actually on CD, the transition between the end of Taurus 2 and Family Man works so well.
Yes.
It's incredible. And it increases my perception of this as an Amarok, like the pre-thought for Amarok, because it's one idea after another, and you're locked into it. And maybe I don't like that section, but the next one I know is going to be incredible. Yeah,
you know, like we haven't talked about the end of Taurus 2, which is like you get all this like this climaxing parts, let's say, for a moment, and like it kind of like spirals up, and then it explodes just in that major chord at the end, and you would think, okay, it's over. But now then you get that zither part with the backwards echo on it.
What is that? If you actually reverse it into that's reverse, right?
It's a reverse echo, I think. It's recorded. It's a delay on the part, but recorded onto tape backwards onto the tape, and then reverse back again. So you hear the original going forward, and the delay is going backwards. Okay. I think that's what it is.
Yeah. Yes.
And it's just like so beautiful. Just like again. These three chords at the end, like which is just the 1-4-5 chord kind of thing that he like just in Tubular Bells. That's what he calls the beautiful melody, and it's always when he uses that, sort of like a reprise of that beautiful theme from Tubular Bells. So here he puts that at the end, and you know there are a couple of live versions also on video where you can see him. Like when they play Taurus 2 live, and people kind of like go crazy and applaud, and it's not over. You can see his face, how he wants them to wait for the end. And then like at the end, like the feedback of the echo gets turned up, and you just hear, and I think at the end it's a Fairlight cello sample or something that you hear at the very end. And then it gets stuck, like the needle got stuck on the record. That's really sort of like the moment when the emotional release happens, not before.
Yes, I have something similar with the Crisis End, which is also a series of sort of finales following upon each other.
And all of this is actually referencing our Omadon. Like this kind of finale where the guitar is screaming, like that's both in Crisis and Five Parts Out. Taurus 2.
Yes.
It's a reference to that. And remember the lost version of Omadon has an afterthought to the screaming, right? And in a way, that's what's happening in Taurus too. There's that little afterthought. And we have that afterthought as well on Crisis.
Yeah.
So.
By the way, the echo thing, I think you may be right, because if I look at the diagram now, actually I can read echo because it's upside down.
Yes.
So
but he's written it down.
He's written it the other way around.
OHCE. Like, yes.
So it suggests that it's somehow the echo is reversed or upside down.
Yes.
Whereas the zither is
yeah. Exactly.
playing it forward.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
I'm going to get this and put it up on my wall, I think.
It's wonderful. Like the song 5 Months Out also has the Tubular Bells intro in its intro, which is kind of cheesy. But it's strings, I think. It's played on strings. And then if you look here in the credits, it says strings on 5 Months Out arranged by Morris Peart and conducted by Martin Ford. So it must have been they really got strings into the studio for this song, and you basically don't hear them.
There's so much work in there.
Yeah, but you basically don't hear them, right? So there's an interesting early version of 5 Months Out on the deluxe edition, where you could tell that he was really struggling getting that song right, because it's so complex, so many parts. I think the way it came out on the record, it's just wonderful. And again, like, I think people need to know this record.
I like the finale of 5 Miles Out, because it's a completely different way of reaching a climax in musical terms.
Yes.
The layering of the voices and the voices singing against and then with each other. I think that is something completely different, not the way you would expect it, but it really leaves you with a really on a high, I think.
On a high, and really, like, it's 4 lines, right? So 5 Miles Out, Maggie Riley sings. Then Just Hold Your Heading True is Mike singing. Then Got to Get Your Finest Out is Maggie Riley singing. And then Climbing is the vocoder.
Yeah.
And that's the loop that then ends the track.
And it really is, it pushes each, like the end of those 4 pushes you again back into the first. It's really, really clever.
Yeah, I mean, it's such a, I mean, like, it's sort of like a programmatic music, or in a way like the what conceptual, like, prog rock albums sort of like were sort of meant to be, where they tell like a little bit of story, and like he's put everything like into this little 4-minute song, where it's that story of being in danger, and like at the end, like the relief, and you know, again, it says also here, you'll be celebrating when you're down and breaking, you know. Yeah.
That story is actually pretty great in the autobiography. I think his account of being up in the plane, it's both funny and shocking and horrible. That is really one of the best stories in there.
Mm-hmm.
How the pilot that's his first flight, like this real flight, and then it's supposed to be a day where there's just a few isolated thunderstorms which he should be able to navigate around, and then it's one big field, and they're the only plane that's in the air, because everyone else obviously thought it was insanity to even go up.
Yeah, it's great. Like the lyrics, they use these pilots slang, or like these terms, and then it has like the in a way the even the, you know, the Lost in Static 18 that Mike sings, which is sort of like, you know, like loosely speaking, like the Piltdown Man coming back in a way.
That's true. Yeah.
Right. It's so funny, and that's also like, as far as I know, at least in the transcription book that I had at the time, it's called 10. This is the only part in any of Mike Oldfield songs where there is an augmented chord. So really, like, and I don't know of any other augmented chord in this music, so it's really it's special. It's the static 18 part.
As a side note, by the way, it's, I think you're supposed to read a comma in there. I think a comma. It's lost in static 18. So 18, I think, is the number of the flight, sort of the code for the flight, and lost in static.
Yes, yes. And then it's automatic 18. Yeah, it's funny. Trapped in living hell, right? You're prisoner of the dark sky.
Yeah, this is a metal song.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really great. Yeah, and I remember, and like in this edition of the vinyl, I can't see it anymore, but the original edition that I had the lyrics for the Deep Sound printed on it on the back sleeve, very faint color, like it was barely visible. And I see that this edition doesn't even have it anymore. Or was it? No, it was Islands. No, it was Island's Eye, actually.
Okay.
Or maybe both was on there in the original, but I can't find it here anymore. Let's see. No, it's not present on this artwork. This is the 2000, what is it, 13?
Yes, the 2013
13 stereo remaster.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, and I actually have I showed you, Tobias, the poster I have of the show that I went to in '82. I have that. Yeah, incredible. Like, like for this record, I'm pretty sure I could still be saying more, but
what is the text? By the way, there's a lot of text I can see in the printed inner. What does it actually say there? What is it?
You mean this?
No, this is a liner notes to the
this is
reissue.
Mark Powell wrote this.
That's for the reissue. Okay.
Yes, for the reissue. Yeah, I mean, we haven't said that this was the '82 was also the year where he made the longest tour ever. I don't know, I can't remember now how many shows it was, but it was a lot.
Yeah.
Like 150 shows or something, like crazy. Almost every other day they must have played.
It was, I mean, generally speaking, the 80s was such an intense time with constant touring and then recording and writing on the tour, and then maybe just a short break after the tour, and then recording the album and going on tour again. And this goes on until Earth Moving.
Not really.
No?
No, because he stopped touring after '84. Completely stopped.
I was going to swan there was few.
No, completely stopped. It was only between like '84 or like '85 and '87. This was the time of the TV experience appearances, right? And especially around like the Pictures in the Dark. Unfortunately, there was no live appearance or live, well, at least appearance for the song "Shine." There was also like we're gonna get to that, but there was also "Crime of Passion," right? So, but all of this was not really relevant to the there weren't like "Crime of Passion" actually was performed on the '84 tour. Interestingly enough, and like I need to say this, that the show I saw in Essen on the 5 Miles Out tour, they played a version of "In High Places."
Yes.
Which is on Crisis, and also they played Etude, which
The Killing Fields.
on the Killing Fields. So '82, like this album and that tour already kind of like had some material that appeared later present, right? Okay, man. Shall we leave it at that?
I think I mean this was dense.
Yeah, it is super dense. I feel like I've talked too much.
No, it was. I love because you know and love this album so deeply.
Yeah. Do you have anything else on your list?
No, I think a lot of that actually refers more to Crises.
Okay. So thanks so much for listening, right, everybody?
Yeah.
And I suggest also, like, we haven't really spoken to you listeners directly yet, but if you can sort of like help promote this podcast, like with other Oldfield fans or music fans, please do. And we'll see you again next time for Crisis.